Right, we're going to move on now with a look through the front pages of today's French newspapers with Nicholas Rushworth. Good morning, Nick.
Hi to you, Kat.
And today, a very dominant story, also our top news story, the attacks yesterday in Tunis.
Indeed, what we've got here is the attack in the Tunisian capital, very much dominating the front pages and the inside pages too. Let's look at one front page, the commuter paper, 20 minutes, with the headline, "In shock," there, to a picture of an ambulance stretchering one of the victims away. We can turn to, as well, La Croix, which is leading again on this, with the headline there, "Terrorism, Tunisia hit in its turn." And that, Cat, of course, is a reference to the terrorist attacks we've seen in Sydney, Ottawa, Paris and Copenhagen in recent months. La Croix is saying that stability in Tunisia is being hit by chaos in neighbouring Libya. We've seen jihadist attacks in the past, in 2013, with two opposition politicians, secular, assassinated. Instability in the country to a certain degree. But La Croix saying this is the first time that the jihadist target now has focused on tourists specifically.
And we have heard from some people in Tunis who've been speaking to reporters that they had almost been expecting something to happen. That idea of this being Tunisia being hit in its turn, that's reflected in other papers as well.
Very much. Let's go to Le Figaro, which has got pretty much the same headline as we saw there in La Croix. Tunisia hit in its turn by the Islamist terror. Now, it says the attack on the tourists that we've seen will deal a severe blow to the Tunisian economy, which is already struggling. The paper's editorial there, as you can see, is saying, well, the terrorists have not chosen their target by chance here. We've had attacks on Tunis, a kosher supermarket here in Paris, on religious minorities, on antiquities in Iraq. And with this attack on tourists in what is Tunis's largest museum, a symbol of the country's heritage, the paper says that the whole model that we're seeing, the whole of Tunisia as a society, must be defended. That's what it's saying.
Although it is interesting that authorities on the ground are saying that they believe the attackers wanted to attack the parliament, which is very close by, and it was in fact slightly by chance. So it'd be very interesting as the investigation continues to see how these two stories marry up. Let's take a look now at Libération, the left-leaning paper here in France, talking about Tunisia held hostage.
Well, your point there about the parliament possibly being the main target, but also the fact that the museum was targeted, this is very much picked up on in the French press, saying, yes, it's an attack on the economy, tourism, on culture, the museum, and on the politics of the country with the parliament. There you can see the front page of Libé saying that what we've got here is Tunisia held hostage. This is the only true democracy in the Arab world, Tunisia, it says. This is where the Arab uprising began. The country is a symbol. It overthrew a dictator, President Ben Ali. It's been working to balance Islamist and secular forces in a tough transition. This is not a country where the army decides who's president, the president is elected. So Libération is really arguing that what we've got here is a cross-the-board attack, as we've been saying. Let me go to the front page of Le Parisien aujourd'hui en France, which is headlining that its take is there, democracy attacked, picking up on your point there, that could the parliament have possibly been the main target. Now, it's echoing there what has been saying in the other papers, that Tunisia has shown that it can rid itself of a dictator without falling into a civil war. There is a Tunisian model, if you like. The quote there in Le Parisien, in its editorial, is about the shrunken brains of the terrorist fanatics, followers of a feudal ideology. They only know destruction, murder and hate. And the Le Parisien aujourd'hui en France really arguing that what the one hope here is that Tunisia will emerge stronger from this attack on Wednesday. Let me just finish on L'Opinion, one of the other main papers, which has an echo of the wave of support for Charlie Hebdo, which we saw in January. And there, Charlie sans frontières. So Charlie without borders. We saw, of course, the events in Paris, then after that, the violence in Copenhagen, now Tunisia and Tunis. So that whole nous sommes Charlie and je suis Charlie just not going away, is it, in the most dreadful circumstances.
Indeed. Thanks very much for that roundup of that story in the French papers, Nick Rushworth. We'll be back a bit later on with a look through the international press for us as well.